Spanish GP coming up this weekend. So we've got all of the usual preview bits, including bold predictions, pole 1, 2, 3, under pressure coming up later on as well. Spanish GPs are held at the Circuit de Catalunya every year since 1991. This will be the last Spanish GP held at the circuit, with it moving to Madrid next year.
Madrid.
Everyone's favourite. Catalunya itself will stay on the calendar next year, although it's not really known what the name of that Grand Prix is going to be or what its future is going to look like after 2026. 14 corners at the circuit, 2 fewer than it used to be when we reinstated the old Sector 3 in 2021. And Max Verstappen won his first race here back in 2016. And interestingly enough, since then, only he and Lewis Hamilton have won at this circuit.
I really hate that you brought that up. I had that saved up as a good fact. You've just stolen them all in your intro. This is really irritating. Sorry,
mate. Got any others that I can steal?
Obviously, I've got nothing left to say for the whole segment, so this is just joyful.
Good stuff. McLaren, should we start with them? Because Andrea Stella, after the Monaco Grand Prix, called Lando Norris's win well managed and executed, and said that it would just be the start. Harry, can he go back to back?
He certainly can. I think if any race was an important morale boost or confidence boost for Lando Norris, it was going to be the Monaco GP, and he, I know he didn't lead from lights to flag, but he basically did. There was never any challenge properly to his lead. So, yeah, it was a very convincing, I know it was an odd race, but it was still a convincing win. That was all down to his great lap in qualifying. It will certainly serve as a great, especially given we are in the middle of a triple header. That's 2 races of this triple header. He's beaten Piastri. One of them, he's picked up a race win along the way. I think this is a super important, not to say there's going to be a momentum swing, but it's certainly going to, he's chipping away at the championship lead that Oscar Piastri has in the right way. No unchipping here. So yeah, I really think he can. I think he's going to be he'll be on a big boost off the back of Monaco. I'm not saying he would have ever doubted himself, but he knows now on 2 very different tracks he can beat Oscar Piastri over a race weekend, which after a few races where he hadn't, I think it was very important. So, yeah, I really think Lando could be, given the track that we've got as well. I think Lando could be the favourite here.
What do you think, Sam? Do you think that Norris can build on the momentum that we saw in Monaco?
Yeah, I think he'll be really pleased coming out of the Monaco Grand Prix. Not only did he beat Piastri across the whole weekend, both qualifying and new rates, his overall weekend was just so much tidier, so much better put together. It was more certain the whole way around. Even when he wasn't outright leading the race due to strategy or whatever it might be, he always looked calm. He always looked like it was in his hands. He never looked like he was at risk of throwing something away, even through the traffic. Whereas Piastri, we saw an unusual side to Piastri, or what we've come to think of Piastri in the last few races. It felt a little bit brash. It felt a little bit risky. It felt like he didn't have full control over the car. And with Piastri, we're seriously seeing this cool, kind of calm, collected guy that is able to just get results wherever he needs them. I think what will help Lando Norris even further is how well he did here last year in comparison to Oscar Piastri as well. Of course, he finished in 2nd place last year behind Max Verstappen, but Piastri finished in 7th due to a poor qualifying in Q3, meant that he's starting further back than expected and wasn't really able to close down the gap. I think there's about 30 seconds between him at the end of the Grand Prix there. So he's got previous form here over his teammate as well. That's not to say it's a given that he'll end up going ahead and winning a 2nd Grand Prix in a row, but I do think that the cards are very much in Norris's hand at the moment, and Piastri probably needs to get his head down, just make sure that coming out of this triple header, he doesn't lose the lead of this championship, because he's done so well to build it up to this point that a couple of mediocre Grand Prix, can see it swing so quickly in the favour of his teammate.
I think it's entirely possible that Norris wins consecutive races here. Monaco was such a boost, not only because of the result, but and what you referenced, Sam, about how tidy the weekend was from Lando Norris's perspective. But the pace advantage he had on Piastri isn't something that we've typically seen from either McLaren driver so far this year versus the other one. I would say maybe of all the races that we'd had so far, maybe Bahrain and the Piastri advantage that he had. Like, I feel like that was the biggest delta between those two teammates so far this year. And even that was a bit tricky to judge because Norris was working his way back through the field, which wasn't the case here at Monaco. So it's entirely possible. Norris has done a very good job of finding his way inside the top two of nearly every race so far this year. He's been first or second in 6 of the 8 races that we've had. Piastri and Verstappen have only done that 4 times. And it would be a real statement to seize the championship initiative back after what was a tricky couple of races before this triple header. Like, he was 16 points down on Piastri going into this triple header. Now he has a real opportunity to lead the championship once more as we then go into the likes of Canada and the rest of the European season. It feels like more than anything that in terms of consecutive race wins, technically speaking, Norris has done this before, but it's Abu Dhabi last year, Australia this year. He's never won consecutively in the same season, which of course Piastri has already done so far this year. We've seen a couple of epic performances from Norris in the past. The likes of Singapore last year is one that springs to mind. He wins that race by 20 seconds. The follow-up was the United States GP, where he wasn't on the podium. You look at the Netherlands last year, where he won again by over 20 seconds. The race after that, the Italian Grand Prix, where Piastri was quicker than him. So this is an opportunity to do something that he hasn't necessarily done to this point and build on one impressive performance and deliver another. It's what all the greats have done. So a real opportunity for Lando Norris. And a final point, just to say, Sam, that you were spot on with how good Norris was here last year versus Piastri. He finished second. He should have won it. He really should have won that race, I think. He starts from pole. Him and Verstappen were much better than everyone else in qualifying. Loses the lead, and it's the poor start that costs him. He loses the lead to George Russell, who has one of the best starts in recent memory. But whereas Verstappen is able to get by George Russell after, I think, 3 laps, it took Norris 35. And even though the rest of the race was Norris eating into that gap, and he even put some pressure on Verstappen at the end, if he didn't need to do that, I think he would have had the pace to win overall, which is encouraging that he was in that spot. So, yeah, this is very much on for Lando Norris. What about from Oscar Piastri's perspective, Harry? Is it an opportunity for him to bounce back after what wasn't the easiest Monaco GP?
Yeah, definitely. Monaco is such an outlier in many respects, but I think often in terms of, over a season's worth of driver performance, sometimes you get like an odd outlier, and it's often Monaco, or it's like a street circuit like Singapore. So yes, he was a bit more ragged versus his teammate during Monaco, but he was still up there on the podium, and I think he'll definitely see this as an opportunity to bounce back. I think, whilst I said, yeah, it's not, that we're not going to witness a momentum shift, I think he will be keen to ensure that out the back of this triple header, he's not beaten by Norris 3-0, because, that's the sort of thing that could get into your head. I think it'll be important for him to bounce back and at least regain some of that championship lead that he'd built up so well in the first part of the year. So, yeah, I would imagine it's going to be a closer competition between the two of them. What is a more traditional circuit this weekend?
Sam, it feels to me that this Norris and Piastri battle, if it does end up being those two for the title, there's going to be a fair few swings of momentum before we get to the end of it. We've had Piastri win 3 in a row. We've now got Norris getting that momentum back. Is it just a case of, not just for Piastri now, but for Norris at maybe later points in the season as well, not to be too high or too low about when things are going good, when things are going bad, because luck and being quicker than your teammate, it will generally cycle itself back around?
It does tend to balance out. Yeah, lady luck taketh and lady luck giveth. And I think Oscar Piastri is one of those guys who doesn't work on form. I've said this before on this podcast. He's very much turns up for the weekend, sets up for that weekend and delivers for that weekend. And I think it's a similar mentality to what Max Verstappen has. He doesn't race with the idea of, I need to do this to make sure for the championship in 18 races time I come out in front. It's I need to get the best result possible. It might not be winning. Okay, but how do I finish second? How do I finish third? Don't succumb to the pressure. Don't end up panicking or being rash or making a poor decision. And we discussed this, Ben, didn't we, after Monaco, that He had a really poor Grand Prix for his standings coming through Monaco, and yet he still finishes third place and leads the championship. And you know what? If he doesn't have the pace of Norris in Spain, Norris is the better of the two drivers, I have no doubt that if Norris wins, there's every good chance that Oscar Piastri finishes second and minimizes the damage as much as possible. He is that kind of driver. But I'm sure he's going to want to walk away from a triple header, taking the victory, or beating Lando Norris at least. I'm sure he's going to want to walk away, leading his championship standings. So Oscar Piastri does well at these kind of tracks. I think Bahrain is actually probably the most similar that I can think of in recent races that is the same as Catalonia. You kind of got a big old straight, some longer sweeping corners that are quite fast paced. And we saw just how well Piastri went around that racetrack. I wouldn't be surprised to see him feel a lot more at home here at Catalonia, especially with the amount of data the teams have. He's raced here before, more times than many other tracks. I do think he's going to be way more calm, confident, and happy to deliver here. So I think it'll be closer. I think it'll be much closer than what we saw at Monaco.
One of the bigger talking points going into this weekend will be the new technical directive in place for front wings. So the flex of front wings is going to be reduced from 15 to 10 millimeters. Harry, there's speculation as to who this is going to hurt the most. Will it impact McLaren as much as maybe their rivals think that it will? Or hope?
Oh, yeah. It's more of a hope, isn't it? Yeah. They've had a long time to work this out, and I suspect that not everything on that makes that car quick is down to the slightly flexible front wing. I'd be shocked if it was. So, yeah, look, they wouldn't do it if it didn't make them faster. So I'm sure there will be a disadvantage, but they're not the only team doing it. So, I don't think that's going to make a huge difference. They're not suddenly going to fall back through the field. It might bring the likes of Red Bull and Ferrari and Mercedes a bit closer to them this weekend. But I think people hoping for some McLaren downfall may be slightly disappointed. And let's not forget, we've already had a technical directive a few races ago, which has done nothing to do to
really hurt them, didn't it?
Yeah, got right in the
punch.
Yeah, right in the guts. So I think, I would be very surprised if this made any real difference to the pace of that car.
Any thoughts, Sam?
Yeah, I think all the other teams are going to be hoping that for some reason McLaren's pace rests entirely in 5 millimeters of flex on the front wing, which it simply doesn't. They built a mammoth car. It's an absolute beast, and it's going to be so difficult to beat. And this tiny tweaking of the regulations in both rear and front wings is not going to be dropping McLaren to suddenly being the fourth fastest car. It just isn't going to happen. What is going to be really interesting, though, is not how much McLaren are affected negatively, but how much the likes of Ferrari, maybe Red Bull, maybe Mercedes are able to balance their new upgrades with the way their setups are handling to actually get themselves back into the game. Is it going to balance the field slightly with the likes of Leclerc, who is so good, is brilliant at every occasion? If the Ferrari is slightly more on a level playing field, like 5%, is that the difference maker that allows him to regularly be appearing on podiums now? And could that be what drags Ferrari back into a fight, perhaps? So I'm sure the likes of Toto Wolff, Christian Horner, Freddie Vass are all going to be thinking, gosh, anything to get us back in the game, because what McLaren have done has been immense. It's not going to be that simple. They're going to hope that there's going to be more from their cars, as well as a little bit of a handout from this technical directive.
Toto Wolff is a big gosh man, actually, I've heard.
I've heard him say it a lot.
Yeah. Very
gosh.
Yeah, perfect.
That's what he said to James Vowles, wasn't it?
Over the balcony.
Yeah.
Gosh, James, why did you have to ruin my race? Just like that.
Just like that. This technical directive, I like to think that we're quite honest here on the Late Breaking Podcast. We don't know. We don't know who it's going to benefit or who it's not going to benefit. And all of those people out there that think they do know, they don't know either. No one knows until we get to practice and qualifying and into the race. We're guessing. Yes, some of McLaren's rivals are hoping that it's going to impact them more than others, but there's been about 4 of those in the last year, and it hasn't really happened. This isn't the first time that the legality of the McLaren car or changes in the technical directive from the FIA have altered things. But from McLaren's perspective, they've continued to be quick. So I tend to if I was making a bet, and I definitely wouldn't when it comes to this topic, but it would be McLaren have weathered all the previous storms. They'll probably be all right after this one as well. Sam, Verstappen and Red Bull, they kind of set themselves a bit of a target going into the Spanish GP at the beginning of the season, that they wanted to be within touching distance in terms of the Drivers' Championship. They are, even if they're not right on the back of Norris and Piastri right now. Can Verstappen be in the mix here, regardless of how that technical directive goes down?
Max Verstappen does brilliantly well in Catalonia. If you didn't know, actually, he got his first race win here in 2016.
Okay.
The same race he got promoted from Toro Rosso at the time. And actually, since that year, only himself and Lewis Hamilton have gone on to win here. So no one else, just those two guys. So you've not heard that stat before. Red Bull do go very well round here, pretty much second only to Mercedes, and that was during their very dominant era. I do think that they're going to be hoping that this technical directive plays into their hands just a little bit more than they probably is. But Max Verstappen is Max Verstappen, and I think he will feel far more comfortable. I think the pace will be far more accurate here than what it was in Monaco. The middle sectors are far more similar to the likes of Imola. It's fast flowing, it's tight corners, and I think the Red Bull did very well around there. So if the track conditions are somewhat similar to what we saw in the Imola Grand Prix, there's a real chance that Max could be on par with what the McLarens are able to do. And if he can get a shock win here, and I do think it would be a bit of a shock after the pace difference that we saw around Monaco, then he's very much in that championship fight. He will close that gap again. And then we have to have other conversations of, is he definitely a part of this championship fight, or is it just a fleeting possibility at the start of this championship? But yeah, I think Red Bull will be strong here. I think they'll be far closer to McLaren than they previously were.
Harry, we've seen the pace of the Red Bull. The Max Verstappen is more appropriate. It's been very volatile so far this year. We have Imola, where he was incredibly successful. We had Monaco last time out, where it didn't feel like they had the pace of Ferrari or McLaren. Is it a bit of a guessing game as to which Red Bull is going to turn up on any given weekend?
Yeah, I think so. It's what would, I guess, give him some comfort and some solace, Max Verstappen, is that the last, circuit that was a little bit more old school and fast and flowing was Suzuka, and he did all right there.
Did all right.
Yeah, so I would suspect they're going to be more competitive than they were in Monaco. I know it wasn't brilliant for Red Bull in Monaco, but I mean, he finished fourth. Like, it's not the end of the world. And as you said, he's within touching distance. And quite frankly, all of this is making me a little bit annoyed, because Ben at the start of the year predicted Verstappen to be world champion, and he's not far off it.
I'm holding on to him.
I know.
He's not letting me go.
Yeah, I really thought you were a fool. And yep. Cheers, Max, for being that good. So yeah, I think they can Verstappen can definitely have a more competitive weekend here. Given that you can actually overtake at this track, especially with the, going back to the old configuration of the final corners, a bit of strategy at play. I think Verstappen could give, the likes of the two McLarens and, if Ferrari and Mercedes turn up this weekend, give them a bit of a headache.
The last two races have been pretty interesting for the teams that sit second through fourth in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari have got themselves 48 points. Red Bull have got themselves 38 points. Mercedes have 6. Not a great couple of races for Mercedes so far. And what that's done to the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes still have the advantage over those two other teams on 147 points, but they are now just 4 points clear of Red Bull, with Ferrari a further point back. So 5 points separating those three teams. Sam, which team of those three is leaving with second place in the championship after Spain?
How have Ferrari done this? Where did they come from?
A double DSQ in China. Let's not forget. No points.
To be fair, Mercedes and Monaco, that's as good as a double DSQ.
I mean, yes, but they were below Williams at one point. And now they're 5 points from second place. I understand it. This is why Ferrari are here forever, because they just seem to have... Are they the burglars of constructors? I don't know. They seem to just be making up points, and they do seem to be getting stronger and stronger. They were really quite good in their race pace when it came to Imola, and it looked like in certain periods of the Grand Prix at Monaco, they had the fastest car, especially through practice and a lot of qualifying. Have they finally got these upgrades working? Have the setups finally started to appear? With Ferrari, you just don't know because it is baffling every time they turn up to a race weekend. So in theory, they could do so brilliantly at Circuit de Catalunya, or they could be last. It really is that confusing. The issue for Red Bull, of course, who are sandwiched between Ferrari and Mercedes right now, is they quite literally are fighting with one hand behind their back. Their second driver is unable to compete permanently, and Isaac Hadjar has scored more than Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda combined. Both of them have had to go in the Red Bull. He hasn't. So that tells you just how poor that team is doing. So it's all on Max Verstappen's shoulders and if he's actually able to achieve or not. And then finally, you've got Mercedes. George Russell was Mr. Consistent. Kimi Antonelli looked like he was the best rookie going, but the team is seemingly sliding down a hill, and that hill is their performance. They're not really able to gain it where they had it once before. And I did say on the, I think it was on the review show, that if Mercedes needed anything to save them, it was a parachute in the shape of Circuit de Catalunya, because they blimmin' love it here. They always do very well. But you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this. Delusional. I'm going with Ferrari for second place. I think the upgrades are starting to work. Charles Leclerc is Charles Leclerc. He is a god for a reason. And I think he will drive out of vengeance and spite to force his way through Ferrari. And Lewis Hamilton is there. He's ticking along. He's doing all right. He's having a good time in the club and he's having a good time in the car. And that's all we like from Lewis. So well done, mate. Just keep scoring those backup points. Yeah, Ferrari for me. I really think they can about pull through. Seb, a delusional Ferrari fan.
How are you spelling club?
CL.
No, it starts with a K, man.
No club has ever started with a K. No, you should not be in any club that starts with a K. Thank you, Ben. CL. U RRW 3Bs.
He's chucked in a W. You crazy fool. Can't believe it. Club. Okay.
In the club.
All right. From one delusional Ferrari fan to another, possibly. Harry, are you backing them to get second?
There's something in there.
Here we go.
There is a Monaco spec car. That's what's in there.
Hey, the car in Miami, had they qualified better, was okay, right?
That's 2025.
Yeah.
Look,
that statement.
There's some pasta and a dream in that car.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. In every car they make, there's some pasta and a dream.
Put a bit of penne in the exhaust pipe.
Penne.
No, not in. They are the exhaust pipes. Just 2 bits of penne.
Imagine they're shaped like penne.
It works.
Is this offensive to Italians?
It's just cheap.
It wouldn't work with Fusilli, would it? But penne, like, you got the shape right for an exhaust. That's fine.
Imagine the shell bit on the side of the car. Oh my gosh, it works out.
Is that the sound of everyone tuning out? Yeah, it is, yeah.
No, they're tuning in.
Right.
Yeah, I do think there's something in those Ferrari upgrades that has worked. They just need to execute it slightly better. I don't know whether they're going to be quite as quick as they were in Monaco. And as you said, Sam, and I was going to make the same point, Mercedes love Spain. The person most gutted about the fact that, we're not going to have the Spanish Grand Prix there anymore. Number 1, Ben Hocking. Number 2, Toto Wolff, because Mercedes love Spain. They always go well here. So I would suspect that, they're going to be back up in the mix. I'm going to be delusional. I'm going to back Ferrari as well. I think George Russell will be, back to his usual burglary tricks.
He's actually called Jorge Russell when it comes to Spain.
Okay. And
does he have to be?
Yes. It's the law.
But I do think that if Ferrari can, execute the entire weekend well, that they could be more competitive than Mercedes. I think Mercedes definitely have struggled the past couple of races. Obviously, Monaco was an outlier in that they didn't qualify well to begin with. But even before that, their pace didn't look brilliant. And I think there is something in potentially the hotter conditions that has reared its ugly head again for Merc and their tyre wear. So Spain is going to be a hot weekend, and it's normally quite hot in Spain. Write that one in the book. Then I think Mercedes might struggle, and Ferrari can take advantage. Ferrari can take advantage. Whether they will take advantage It's another question.
Don't trust them. I don't trust them at all. Sorry. Don't trust them.
You know the expression, like shooting fish in a barrel? If you gave that to Ferrari, they would just shoot next to the barrel.
Yes. And then they would ask the fish what strategy they're on.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, I don't trust them. I need to see one more because Monaco is just so unrepresentative versus pretty much any other circuit. And whilst Imola looked a little bit more encouraging, that was a pretty weird race strategically, to the point where I'd like to see another race where they can qualify better than they did at Imola and then actually follow through on that in the race. If they do that in Spain, I will then back them a little bit more going forward, but I don't trust them yet. I've got to see one more. In terms of Mercedes, you're absolutely right. They love it here. That's my inkling as to which of these three teams leads going out of this race, but I also said that at Monaco. So maybe don't listen to me too much on this topic because I'm not doing very well recently. But yeah, you're right. Historically, they've done very well here. Last year, they only had 4 races last year where both cars finished inside the top 4. Spain was one of them. 2023 was their only double podium with Spain. So yes, they do go very well here. And the point you made on Red Bull, Sam, is very true, that it's basically, it says Red Bull, but it is Max Verstappen. Technically speaking, I guess they would be 4th if it weren't for a second driver, but that isn't saying a lot right now. He scored 136 of the 143 points that team has. And it's so...
That is so laughable.
It's laughable. Do you want to know the thing that illustrates it the best?
Yes.
Remember the Bahrain GP? Yes. Horrible weekend for Verstappen and Red Bull. They were awful there. If he had only finished that race this year and DNF'd from all of the other ones and the sprints, he would still be the lead Red Bull driver this season.
That's such a good illustration.
With 8 points.
Honestly, Van Gogh couldn't draw it that well. That's
It's
so
not good, man. So yeah, Yuki Tsunoda needs to show something this weekend, because at the moment, Red Bull are just in a spot where Verstappen has to be first or second in a race for them to just keep pace with Mercedes and Ferrari if they have an all right weekend, which maybe it's sustainable, maybe it isn't, but they don't need much from a second driver to really give them the edge in this championship battle, or at least second in the championship battle. Shall we do some bold predictions?
Gather around, little children, and listen to my song about my F1 bold predictions and how they'll all be wrong.
Quick bit of housekeeping on this. Harry, you are banned from making a bold prediction about Fernando Alonso at his home race.
I'm not making any more predictions about Alonso or Aston Martin because I'm cursing them.
Clearly. But what is your bold prediction?
I've gone for a different Spanish driver instead because I was on
That's the other one.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz, he's going to get a top 5 finish in the race. At his home race.
Don't mind that. It,
Could happen.
Could happen. Sam, what are you going for?
No.
Fernando Alonso top 6 finish.
Why are you doing this? His gearbox is going to break. It's going to happen.
Masochist, like.
Look, I'm not the curse, okay? Harry Eid is the curse, and this will prove it.
Yeah, we'll see. My bold prediction, hey, there's a massive upgrade package coming for a team this weekend.
What seems that then, we all say?
Sauber.
Oh,
Come on.
Oh, they're going to be cooking. My bold prediction is that Sauber will not be last coming out of this weekend.
in the championship,
In the championship.
Because I ain't got in the race. Because
Yeah, that, can I have that? They will not be last in the Constructors' Championship when we head out of Spain.
Okay, so you're hoping they score at least 2 points and Alpine score none.
That seems the most likely way to get there. Yes.
Can't wait for Alpine to win, but they finish second.
I mean, I would hope that would also elevate them ahead of a few other teams.
Yeah, it probably would. Yeah, just.
Yeah, I'm not going to go with they will be beating Alpine because then that would happen.
You think Jonathan Wheatley's got his chef whites on? He's cooking.
No, but Binotto is.
I don't know. I mean, Hulkenberg looked quite confident coming out of Monaco. He obviously didn't like how the race went, but he seemed to think that it was not nothing, this upgrade package. So
how could he be confident when he got mugged blind for 15th place on the last lap by...
I would want any package given to me if I got mugged blind by Lance Stroll.
He's constantly thinking about that move because it meant everything.
Man is waking up at 3 a.m, like,
Every time someone walks past him in the street, it's like he thinks it's Lance Stroll coming past him. Lance, oh God, sorry.
The streets will never forget the time Stroll managed to secure no points with that overtake, I swear to God.
Big up F1 for trying to promote that, saying literally securing P15. Come on, guys.
He secured the bag, and that bag is like a bin bag full of poo.
Full of nothing. It's full of nothing. An empty bag.
It's unlucky, really. Hulkenberg was probably just thinking that it was lap traffic in that Sauber. But anyway, pole 1, 2, 3. Sam, what have you got?
Pole, I've got Max Verstappen. The wing, I've got Max Verstappen. Second, I've got Piastri. Third, I have Norris.
Same for me. Switch to 2 McLaren drivers. I like Red Bull and Verstappen this weekend. I think they might be all right. Harry?
I've also got pole for Max Verstappen, but I've given the win to Lando Norris. Verstappen will be second with Piastri in third.
So McLaren and Verstappen this weekend.
Shock.
Yes, we're really surprising with these predictions. No Hadjar in third this week, Sam.
No, not just. He let me down.
But Alonso will be fourth.